Okay, guys. So this is gonna be a revision for me for the data ethics and privacy lessons. A rehearsal for my upcoming exam. Okay, so this chapter talks about law, morality, ethics, and ethical dilemmas. Okay. Here it mentions that uh, moral basically talks about what is good or bad behavior, fairness, honesty, integrity that every person believes in. Basically, it's subjective. Okay, and behaviors, behaving in certain ways can be considered by most people to be correct and honest. Okay, and there are standard behaviors that are good and bad as well. So, but in literature, moral can be a lesson that can be drawn from a story, a book, a novel, or other work of literatures as well. So that's some definition of moral. So we can say moral is any standard of good, any standards of behavior that is considered good or bad based on individual level. Okay, this chapter basically talks about that. I mean, this slide. Now, here's some examples about law, morals, and ethics. So basically, law. There's no definition here, but law is a set of rules and regulations that govern a society or an entity, okay, or an organization, okay, and law has to be enforceable, okay, and ethics, which we will see in the next slides, basically is those standards of behaviors that are considered either good or bad that are acceptable within a society, okay, because we cannot all say that this is right or wrong based on our individual preferences. If example, one could argue, is it is it cheating on exam right or wrong? Okay. But a student who is desperate might say, oh, it's fine as long as yeah, but we generally come to the terms to accept that it is wrong to cheat in exam, okay? Another one would be, is it always right to tell truth to your parents, even in situations that truth may not help? So one could say it depends. Okay. Now here Um, talking about ethics again. So ethics, once again, it is the acceptable morals. Okay, good standards of good and bad behaviors that are accepted in society or a group or an organization. Okay, we have code of ethics, professional ethics. So ethics technically can refer to a branch of philosophy that studies the basis of moral. Okay, basically wants to understand why people do what they do. You know, systematic reflection on norms, trying to understand and justify questions, complex questions. It's a branch of philosophy. Okay, but practically, basically, and that is the essence of this chapter. It refers to a system of accepted rules and morals about behavior and based on what is considered right and wrong. Okay. And here we have examples of um, ethics from Nova IMS. Okay. Now, when it comes to ethics and morals, one individual different or key difference is that morals is more to the personal level, whereby ethics is the societal level. Okay. Everyone can have different morals, but we must all agree on certain ethics that should govern us. Okay. That is acceptable. And ethics also can be divided into non-normative ethics and normative ethics. Okay, so non-normative ethics basically tries to not directly engage with prescribing or evaluating actions as right or wrong. Do not determine whether this is right or wrong. Basically, wants to understand, the rationale, analyze the nature of moral concepts, and explore this as a philosophical argument. Okay, whereas the normative ethics tries to find a balance and determine what actions are right or wrong. Okay, what people must do, what kind of people, what kinds of people we have to be like. Okay, it focuses on establishing the standards and principles that guide good behavior and help people make good moral decisions. Okay, and also professional ethics. These are ethics that exist in workplaces, in organizations, in government institutions. Okay, and professional ethics are generally accepted. These are things like honesty, discrimination, truthfulness. Okay, I mean non-discrimination. These are professional ethics that everyone basically inherits, even though you are not told. If you are in a professional settings, you have to be honest and be truthful. Okay. Okay. So as we continue, um, some examples of code of ethics, rules of conduct for hospitals, for food chains, and for universities as well, like Nova. Okay. And when it comes to public regulations, okay, government institutions, we have what we call a public policy that is a set of enforceable guidelines that is developed by community, I mean, a committee or council or a government body, basically. Okay, sometimes provides additional professional ethic guidelines. Okay, in addition to the general guidelines that everyone knows. Okay, for example, in the UK, they have the General Medical Council. They basically set the standards for doctors, what doctors need to do or behave. Basically, okay, that's the council that is. And for institutions, we have ABET. Okay, and then now this is the slide that talks about law. And here is a Latin phrase that say "dura lex, sed lex." I think that's correct, right? Means law is harsh, but it is the law. Okay, so basically, we have morals, we have ethics. Law basically aims to regulate the relationship within a society. Okay, so what happens if someone goes against the ethics and do what they are not supposed to do? The law comes into place. The law has to be enforced. We have people that enforce the law. Okay, and 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 in most cases, everyone is guilty. I mean, everyone is innocent until proven guilty. So those are some things about the law. Okay. Now, ethical dilemmas. These are situations in which two or more actions seem to be uh, uh, acceptable, or both sides have solid arguments. Okay. But they are not incompatible. They are incompatible. Okay. We will see examples of this. Okay, it says circumstances in which ethical obligations demand that a person adopt each of two or more alternative but incompatible actions, such that the person cannot perform all required actions. Okay. Now, for example, we have an example whereby, um, okay, a patient confides to his psychiatrist that he intends to kill his wife. Okay, so this is very serious. What should the psychiatrist do? Okay, should he just maintain confidentiality or just report to the authorities that this guy is trying to do this? Okay, what? So this is an ethical dilemma, because okay, so we will see more of these. Okay, and so basically these are some of the ethical dilemmas that was discussed in the class. I just didn't think it's necessary for me to go over them. Yeah, these are this, and we have the ethical dilemma for AI as well. Okay, so this was slide from our professor, Dr. Joanna Neves. Okay, all right, thank you.